Hello, Jordan. Good afternoon.
Hello, Dave. Good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hello. Hello. Okay, so anyway, we have actually 2 minutes, but I think I can give you the rights to share your screen. So hold on. I think you can actually check, please. If you
I
have
was
access.
saying, let me try. Desktop should be this, and then I want to have.
Yes, we can see the screen.
Perfect.
Good,
Yeah.
good. I think if you can put this in full screen, will be good.
I was just about to do it.
Okay. So anyway, if you're before to start, thank you for accepting my invitation again. For me, it's a pleasure to be with you. So the idea is actually we're gonna have our minute. So we're gonna have a video. So we're recording this webinar because we're gonna have a special, let's say, like place for webinars. So all the people, all the audience will have the chance to check out. So just you to know that we're recording this webinar. Okay.
Amazing. Sure.
Okay,
I try to behave.
Okay, that's cool. So I think we're gonna have one more minute, and I think we're ready to go. I will let you know. 1 more minute.
How long in total? What's total cap max, and what's ideal speaking time? And what do you expect in terms of questions?
I think like from 20 to 30 minutes, but again, it will depend on you. So we don't have any limits about the time. So no worries about that.
Yeah, it's up to 40 minutes maybe. No more than 40. Okay.
Do you expect any questions? I have discussion points on some slides if somebody wants to interact.
Yes.
Or of course at the end, but I had no clue how much time would that approximately take. So yeah.
Yeah, no worry. We will let people to answer some questions. So actually, it's now 2 o'clock. So I think we can start. So hi everybody. You're welcome to this series of webinars about corporate innovation. My name is Ded Vasquez, and I have been working in corporate innovation for a while, for some years, helping companies in growth, product, and how to run pilots with corporations. But let's start with my speaker for today. So, hey, George, hi, how are you? Please introduce yourself.
Thank you very much, Dave. Thanks for having me. My name is Bjorn. I'm Chief Growth Officer of Matchmaker Ventures, company based in Vienna and working on innovations with and for corporates, specific on the topic of Corp Up, what we call collaborations between startups, scale-ups, and corporates. 8 years on the market, and I have been invited by Dave to talk a little bit. What do we see on the market? Maybe shortly introducing, and I will slump to my first slide for the agenda. Shortly introducing MMV, so Matchmaker Ventures. What are we doing? How are we set up? What did we generate? So I will try to give a couple of numbers. So 3 slides only, high level. What are we doing? What's my right to speak here? And point number 2, I will briefly elaborate as well on our research with a deep dive into the age of collaboration, which is our biggest research topic or a research study talking about collaborations between corporates and scale-ups. And I will try to give you some high-level summary learnings, some advices on that. And that is already going to point number 3 in the specific findings. Do I have some best practices? And do I see some success stories or some overarching general findings which should be taken into consideration to be actually successful when collaborating with potential partners in the area of scale-ups or startups?
Sounds super cool and super interesting. So before to start with the presentation itself, the plan is easy. So we're gonna have around 20 to 30 minutes of presentation, and of course a Q&A session. So please, to all of you that are actually now in the webinar, please leave your questions in the chat. And what do you think, John? Maybe we can actually answer the questions right away, or we're gonna wait until then. Okay, cool.
Feel free to interrupt me. Everybody, Dave, if you see a question, I have on on 4 slides, there is some potential discussion points. So
Okay.
also for the audience to reflect before I go into what do we see as a potential answer to that question. So happy to interact, but again, feel just free to interrupt me. I will try to react as flexible as I can.
Cool. Before we start, I just want to say that actually Matchmaker Ventures is one of those companies that have been working on this for several years. I actually know personally a lot of people from Matchmaker Ventures, and I think that they have a lot of experience and the idea is to share with the audience your experience and how you're actually cooperating. So at the end of the day, for the audience that are actually now in the webinar, if you're a corporation, you're a scale up, and you want to know more about what Matchmaker Ventures is doing, please, at the end of the presentation, we're gonna have all the contacts from John. So I think you can have the contacts and you will have the chance to talk with him directly. So, okay, I think we're ready to start. So the microphone is yours. So yeah, let's start.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And
Thank
again,
you.
free and motivated to ask any questions or raise your hand if something is unclear. Happy to discuss. So just sharing our view. So quickly introducing Matchmaker Ventures. Give me 1 second. So overarching, we are global experts powering real impact through collaborations. So for us, and as you see at the bottom kind of our 3 pillars, we are pioneers in enabling corp-ups, so collaborations between startup scale-ups on the one and corporates on the other side, creating really business impact. So for us, it's not about investments, not about nice, fancy hackathons or accelerators. It's only and fully committed to creating business. We are very skilled entrepreneurs with core expertise in the telecom and banking sectors. And we have a network of more than 100 CXOs in our network, which of course enable us to understand high-level industry, to understand very concrete, specific accounts, pain points at corporates, and how we can solve them or how a scale-up can potentially solve them with their solution. Overall, what we do, we are driving both top-line growth or bottom-line savings via enabling end-to-end collaborations. So we really start, and I will show on a high-level slide, try to explain really at the beginning, trying to understand what are the pain points, solutions, enhancing that the 2 parties speak the same language to each other, understand each other, and eventually collaborate to solve their problem together. Following that, and I will not go and don't be scared in all details, just to explain how we really see the collaboration when we say we drive collaboration end to end. So when I start before the 0, so before we really start to scout for the right scale-ups, and when I say we scout, we roughly scout or that we screen more than 1,000 companies per year. We are very close again in the industry with our corporate customers to understand what are actual pain points right now, where's potential for the future, where new business ideas, revenue streams could pick up to be actually able to scout for the right scale-ups. In this case, right really means right addressing a pain point, bringing a technology with a corporate customer can actually leverage. Having that background, and point number 2, for us very important, we have currently a network of 11 portfolio companies we support in going out to the market, that we validate the scale-up, the solution of the scale-up, the company itself, the capabilities of the company, and to select those scale-up where we see this really can create a short-term impact, meaning the solution is there, the company, the support is there, and together with us, and we use here our network of industry experts. So we have roughly around the globe also 100 industry experts coming out of the industry, still working with corporate customers, knowing what is important for them, what are pain points, is the solution relevant, appropriate to cover that pain point. When we have decided a scale-up brings the right potential and we can add the right value to be together successful with corporate customers, for us, the stage number 3, the onboarding becomes really important to make sure that we understand the scale-up solution. Likewise, that the scale-up teaches us the best they can about their solution and the target customers to allow us to define the best go-to-market, to have an appealing, compelling sales story around it, and to define to which customers do we want to leverage which channel, how do we want to approach a customer. That goes to point number 4 in our internal setup. Between the scale-up on the one and the corporate on the other side, we have an intelligent unit, our sales business intelligent unit, which it's matching what is the target customer, the target persona of the scale-up on the one side, and who do I have in the network, in my customer network, or my senior industry experts, who I can approach to help me to access that client. Then in point number 5 and 6, that's something specific. How do we work and how do we work successful with our scale up? First, working end to end. I was briefly mentioning on the slide before. So for us, it's not only about opening the door like an ambassador and saying, you two people, please talk and find a solution, a compromise together. For us, it's much more, we open the door for our portfolio scale ups. We qualify an opportunity, we involve the right stakeholders until it really goes about, let's say, the application, the content about the solution, the specifics. Then we will involve the scale-up itself, meaning the two parties who are actually doing the business together, corporate and scale-up doing corp-ups. We are the middlemen remaining in the game to facilitate, to moderate, having clearly the advantage we speak both languages, trying to find the best compromise for both solutions. Number 1, to finish point number 5, to sign an agreement, to find a conclusion, to find a partnership between those two parties, and knowing the customers or keeping in mind the industries where we're coming from, telco and banking. For us, it becomes really important and crucial when it's about the scaling. So not only doing in one-off business, not doing a business in one corporate entity, but taking that success, scaling it through the corporate customer, through the different entities, through the different countries, using the initial success story to build on that and to continue to drive the business. I hold for a second. If you have any more detailed questions, feel free to approach me offline and we take it a bit more specific how we do it there.
I actually have I have some questions from Telegram I received, but I think you will answer those in the next slide. So I will wait for a little bit. If something, I will just raise up the hands, okay?
Okay, I was finishing the introduction about us.
Yep.
So just setting the scene. We have, again, on the left-hand side, you see our scale-up portfolio, meaning when I say portfolio, we are never on the cap table. We are not invested. So meaning we are their business development and sales partners. And on the right-hand side, you see a couple, not exhaustive, but some examples of our corporate customers, very telco heavy, and as well growing the banking or the telco sector, where we enable the both parties to collaborate. And if you ask, what did you achieve? Is there a business behind? How do you measure success? So we have tried to calculate last year's business, how much business impact did we generate? Roughly 500 million business in terms of contract value, top line or bottom line savings. Now I finish introduction. I would continue. If you don't have a question.
Yes, actually, I do have to start with a simple question and to give the audience an understanding about who are the scale-ups. I mean, how you define who is the scale-up. I mean, please make a small define who they are. Scale-up.
Yeah. So the very easy definition for us in terms of startup, scale-up. Scale-up is a later stage startup. So it's not about I have a fantastic idea, which could change the world, which is more the startup. The scale-up is already having a product in mass production, having already a relevant reference account, meaning it's not the bakery around the corner I'm doing business with. If I want to grow in telco, I already have my local telco partner, an ISP as initial customer as minimum. And for us, a scale up on top of that means really it's already a company which is in a stage to be scalable, meaning you will have certain minimum requirements in terms of FTEs, in terms of minimum funding or revenue, and a minimum setup or a certain setup in terms of processes, in terms of documentation, to be actually be able to grow with such a corporate customer. So if you're an early stage startup, you will have a challenge to deliver or work on a corp-up approach with the customers you see in our corporate customer bucket as being a bit too early. There are different vehicles, different modules to get engaged with such a customer. Or if you want to collaborate, meaning doing business, you might target the different tier, like a tier 2, tier 3, meaning a local operator, an ISP, a service provider, which is more closer and let's say acts as a first reference for you.
Right. So continue with this question. So why not work with startups? I mean, that is the common word, you know, like, yeah, I think that in Kazakhstan, for example, it's not common to listen about this startups. So yes, give me some reasons why you are more focused in working with the scale-ups instead of startups.
Instead of, sorry, what's the last word? I didn't catch it.
Startups. Startups.
Doesn't ring a bell. Sorry. You need to help me.
No, startups. I mean, startups. I mean, scale-ups, startups. Okay, never mind. Please, you can continue.
Established supplier?
No. Startups. Startups.
A startup. Oh, okay. Sorry. No, sorry. Sorry. So it's startup.
Don't worry.
So for us, it's really creating business. So I will come briefly afterwards what we see in our research, in our report. Of course, there are different vehicles. And of course, different vehicles have a different reason. And I'm not saying you should do everything with corp-up. If you want to do corp-up, meaning doing business, I think stage becomes a crucial factor. Meaning the idea to change the world might be really nice in an incubator, an accelerator to really explore. Is there an interest? Is there a need? Is the technology feasible? When you discuss with a corporate customer like an Orange or like a Deutsche Telekom, who have a certain risk awareness, already working with a new supplier, it's a challenge. With a startup, meaning without a finished product, without a relevant reference, most probably you will not be successful in a corp-up approach, meaning selling your solution to that corporate client. I'm not saying you shouldn't be engaged. Again, incubators, accelerators, maybe hackathons are first proper vehicles to test the waters, let's say, if you're an earlier stage, if you're not that further developed, or if you don't have that, if you are ready to collaborate, to do business, and you need the first reference, again, you might want to start closer in the industry, but not with a tier 1 or tier 2, or you kind of shortcut that, and that's a little bit our approach or secret sauce. Right? So what we are doing, using our network and our expertise, eventually you can say our trust, our credibility, our expertise to close that.
Right.
But again, with a per definition, or in our definition, with a startup, then again, my business model, which is all about generating revenue for my scale-up left-hand side portfolio partners, meaning I have time to money, and we're talking B2B, and telcos, how telcos work, right? So like in anything below 12 months is already quite achieved, or quite optimistic, quite ambitious. Often you have sales cycles 18 months and even more. So currently our average time looking into last year is 6 months roughly. So yes, we are able to shorten sales cycle using our network, and I would say leveraging our know-how expertise to increase conversion. So for us, it's about creating money. So startups having an amazing idea, absolute fantastic. Funding, hackathons, important things, just not my business. I focus, and I would claim, why did I choose to focus on corp-up? I would probably come back and say, because of the quickest impact from both parties, meaning quickest with lowest risk, I'm not saying it's for everybody the most important. But I'm saying I think for everybody it can be the fastest with the lowest risk, which you then can use internally to what we call, let's say, cluster, solve your innovation puzzle. With whom should I work, where and how on open innovation? You will come probably to the stage, I want to work with startups, scale-ups to be faster for the speed reason. And then the question is, what kind of company are you and how are you set up? For which vehicle do you want to use? Do you want to invest? Do you run a hackathon? And I'm claiming whatever you do, if you start with Corp Up, it will significantly help you to get your organization behind, because it's the fastest one to see results. And then it's like, oh, this is what comes out when I work with a startup. It creates business. It's getting in touch with new people, new ideas. It will help you, your teams, your shareholders to get behind that idea, to also embrace it on a bigger level and potentially invest or even found your own accelerator.
Oh, I'm sorry. So please switch on your microphone, guys.
I think I can centrally not regulate it. Sorry.
Okay, I just take it. Yeah, everything is okay. Okay, I think we can continue. I think it's clear. So please, I think
Sorry, may I ask a question, please?
Yeah, please, go on.
Yes.
So you said about the top line growth and bottom line savings. Can you please define them, because I didn't get them. Thanks.
Let's say I take left-hand side. You see a second company, which is Boosteroid, which is an online cloud gaming solution. So they offer the full infrastructure, the back end and the front end, to sell cloud gaming solutions to consumers, which could be a service you might can imagine that a telco like a Vodafone is offering to their clients, together with a data tariff maybe. So if you subscribe to Boosteroid powered by Vodafone or together with Vodafone, you pay instead of $9.99 only $7.99, and you get a 20% discount on the data tariff. So it's a new revenue stream for Vodafone to offer the Boosteroid service to their customers. Top line growth. I take the one above, Lablabi. Lablabi is a virtual classroom, a virtual test lab where you train your employees with new technologies in the telco area, specific 5G, near-band IoT, I don't know, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi. Especially 5G is currently the topic where you need to train your engineers that in 5G you can do much more programming, splitting, slicing, beaming, lots of things. How do you do that? And currently there's also, how do I either I hire new people, which are limited, or I need to invest into training programs. How do I do that? Then you go to Nokia and like, hey, there's 5G, what can I do? Yeah, I can supply you a test lab, a test room, a cabinet, roughly, I don't know, 800K, a lot of hardware, which allows your technicians to do the programming. Lablabi is doing everything in the cloud, in the virtual test lab, which is kind of faking the 5G behind. So still the engineer can do all the programming. Of course, a lot faster, a lot cheaper. I don't know, a tenth of the cost is that solution. So bottom line saving. Telco needs to invest into restaffing, retraining their employees, either classical classrooms together with hardware or virtual in the cloud, Lablabi. Bottom line saving.
I see. Yes, thank you very much. It was more straightforward than I thought. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Happy to answer questions. Again, if no more questions, I will slowly continue, keeping an eye on the time.
Yes, please.
Just to finish, and I will come afterwards to my main topic, what you see right-hand side already, age of collaboration. So next to doing business, we are fully there to do business. From the beginning on, we have always tried to invest time, resources, and having partners in place to also have an eye on the ecosystem, to see where is it going, to make sure that we are staying in top of mind and have the expertise what's happening on the market. So here just some example. I will elaborate on the latest one, the 2022 global report, Age of Collaboration. We have done a lot of those, like 1 and 2 apparently the last 6 years, so all 3 years there's an update. And also at the bottom, you see some of our partners, like Mind the Bridge, DSMA, and the telco, quite known. Speed Invest, probably in Europe, the most catchy or the best performing VC. So we're trying to be connected, and I come at the very end of the presentation, I touch base on that, the ecosystem, the maturity of the ecosystem, which we have always been in. So, and now that I will elaborate a little bit about the findings, conclusion of the Age of Collaboration. I'm happy to invite everybody to our webpage. You can freely download the report. You will find all the other researchers as well there. Stored in the chronological, of course. So feel free to have a deeper look. If you have any questions, again, feel free to reach out. Looking into the Age of Collaboration, first of all, to mention, together done with Arthur Digital Strategic Consultancy. That's globally the most comprehensive report. It covers around 85 countries and almost 800 respondents, which is almost double as big as the second one, which we see out there. And if you look into startups and corporates participating, you see it's a quite equal split. So we almost have as many corporates participating as we had startups participating. So kind of claiming it should be very representative, and also split what kind of people took the survey and the interviews afterwards for the study. So you see it's mostly on the startup side founders, and almost half of the corporates was done by C-levels / owners or shareholders. So again, people who should know the organization, who should know the strategy, and should be able to tell a little bit, to answer some of the insights that have been asked in the study. I need to put the picture somewhere. So overall, and I will touch base briefly on all of them. Again, I invite you to discuss a couple of points. What are the key learnings coming afterwards to best practice recommendation, looking into the report? So first point, clearly we see, and I would again touch point on all 3 points, we see that Corp Up on a global scale is constantly growing. Global is constantly growing. But on the same side, we see that still challenges are remaining. First point. Second point, we see that, and what we say, the good collaborators who actually get the Corp Up right have re-app notable business impact. And I will explain as well what that actually means. And before coming to point number 3, I see a raising hand.
Yeah, thank you, John. I have this question. You said that the collaboration is growing globally, but in your opinion and experience, where is actually growing more fast? Let's say Europe or in the USA, or maybe some regions that are actually growing more fast than the others.
Yeah, so 2 answers, a very good question. So overarching, you kind of expect always that Africa is catching up quite fast. So in terms of growth rate, that it's performing very good. Overarching champion Corp Up, LATAM region. So yes, we looked into different regions, and you see, I don't have, of course, all numbers. Otherwise, I could talk probably like 3 hours only about all facts and figures from the report. But we see 2 predominantly strong regions, Africa, but really champion LATAM. Europe catching up, but still way to catch up. Perfect. Last point, third learning, there are some best practices. It advises some factors we see, and I will show in point number 3, just some recommendation. Again, you can download the full report and you will see the full advices, but really what do you need to do specific on the corporate side? I have the same reflection on the startup side, more like in terms of a checklist. What do you need to do? That's the insight here, the content as a corporate to be successful with scale ups for yourself, actually. Quickly looking, I have just 4 points for it's a global growing topic. When we see, and again, we had the advantage here, we have done the report now the 3rd time. When I compare the data from the last 3 years, 6 years back, we see it constantly in terms of corporate experience level of working with startups is constantly increasing at an absolute level of roughly 10%. So we see almost half of the corporates say they are collaborating very or extremely successful together with scale-ups already. So overarching, and that was the point I made earlier, the ecosystem is becoming more mature. It's becoming more clear who is funding, when do you need funding, who is more for earlier stage. I mentioned hackathons. I mentioned now hackathons becoming with a special purpose, actually. Hackathons being linked afterwards to accelerators or maybe to incubators, depending again on your stage. They're becoming more partners on the market, partners like Matchmaker Ventures. We're trying to cover this bridge from different perspectives. They are more hands-on approach, more towards system integrators, more towards, I would say, understanding the solutions or the parties from the ambassador approach. There are platforms becoming available, really trying to merge very specific needs with very specific offerings. Again, total ecosystem is growing and kind of leveraging each other. First thing we see in the report. Second, and then the question is, how can the corporate, so scale up is increasing, innovation need is increasing, how can the corporates in the ideal way catch most value? And I mentioned earlier the innovation puzzle, catch most value out of startups. And again, we have asked corporates who are active in the collaboration innovation area versus those ones who have already stopped or are not active anymore in the collaboration area. And we see, and we have asked the different vehicles coming from corp up events, direct investments, all the way down to corporate owned accelerators. And I can say luckily that we have chosen our corp up as being our battlefield. We see clearly as the most successful in terms of being most used vehicles for companies being active with startups in the area of innovation is corp up. So it's significant, followed by either events or direct investments. Events mostly going towards finding new potential partners. Investments, of course, going quite opposite in terms of taking a share of that scale up to really probably eventually incorporate it. Bottom line, we see working with scale ups, the most successful and most used vehicle is actually collaboration between the two parties. Now that we have seen the market is growing and we have identified what is the most successful vehicle, keeping in mind that eventually you need to find your puzzle. So meaning what combination of different vehicle brings you ultimately best to your desired target state. So you could so what's the problem? So they are still, and now again, we have asked both sides and looked into it. I elaborate now on the corporate side. There are still major roadblocks, problems when getting engaged and collaborating with startups or scale-ups. And we have ranked them, and significant, there are 3 ones which are outstanding compared to, of course, other challenges there are working with scale-ups. Number 1, finding the right partner. So we had events before, so quite a high focus of corporates is going into events, meaning see and being seen. So how do I find with those? And I, of course, hear different numbers. I don't know, Crunchbase numbers, high level, 125,000 scale-ups, in 125,000 scale-ups in general. So how many are then having a telco or a banking focus? How do I get in touch with them? How do I find the best ones? How do I benchmark them afterwards? First problem. Second, almost, as you see, 72, 71, 70%, almost on the same level, actually convincing, aligning your organization. So not only having, and I come a little bit on the next slides again on that, top management support, a clear target, a clear strategy, clear processes, buy-in of the people. Why am I doing that? So really, why am I doing that? What's my motivation? What's my upside of it? Still a major challenge also for the scale up side, keeping that in mind. For the corporate, for your SPOC, for your partner, it might be a challenge still to really get the organization behind, or differently saying, most probably there is somebody not aligned. So what can you give your corporate SPOC to convince or to help him get his organization convinced? You know, think a little bit bigger. These challenges are still on the table. And eventually, a little bit almost in the same direction, finding the right business owner. So like, and scale-ups might have experienced that nowadays, or startups, doing a POC becomes easier actually. So more people do POCs, but it becomes even more critical, the questions, so what next? Why am I doing a POC? In line with the question, should be a POC should be paid or unpaid? So, but even more important, what are the KPIs? What's happening afterwards? Which goes in line with that challenge of a corporate. Who is my business owner afterwards? You know, I can do nice here if my KPI as an innovation manager is do a lot of POCs. That's nice, but eventually keeping in mind the challenge can be very easily finding the right business partner afterwards. I look into time. Nevertheless, discussion. Anybody in the audience who wants to elaborate on his experience, you know, challenges you have as a corporate, you face or you challenge to overcome, or on the startup sides, any challenges you see on the corporate there. So anybody wants to share some experience knowledge here? If not, again, I know we are running slowly, critical time. I just continue.
I have
presentation.
Yes, I have anyways one question related with the challenges. Actually, I think this is the most important part when the corporation understands that they need to work with innovation and try to involve startups or scale-ups working on this. But in your opinion, depending on the industry, what are the patterns? I mean, for example, banking or telecom, do they have the same challenges? Or actually, it depends also on the industry where they are working, the challenges are different. What do you think about this?
Yeah, a very good question. In general, like we think they are quite common. Both of them will argue we are very special. We are very sensitive. We are very big. We are very traditional, old school, coming legacy business, heavy investment. So I think there's quite some commonality. Both treat customer data very sensitive. There are some specialities. I think for the telcos, a lot about like GDPR, data privacy, data sensitivity, where they are worried about, meaning you need to approach them very open with like, this is my approach to it. This is how I solve the challenge, or why I not become an issue or a problem for you. Banking is probably quite like, okay, it's financial, even more regulatory, meaning forced into certain directions. Where on the other side, they probably see also the biggest potential, help us in the regulation part. And both will have clearly commonalities and let's say new revenue that we discussed earlier, the top line potential. Let's say using what you have, having your legacy, having your customer base, using now new technologies, and I'm more referring to like AI, big data. So you have a lot of these technologies available. You have a lot of customer data. So there's where we see the commonalities, meaning you can use that to do new things which were not possible or not existing before, to serve your customers more or better. And again, both we are looking into critical infrastructure, probably both is critical infrastructure. Banking would claim probably the same, right? Critical infrastructure. But both face a challenge. How can I become more customer centric? So like, yeah, I'm so innovative, I'm so important. And then if you check into NPS, eventually both will probably need to conclude, hey, we have the same challenge. And then looking what happens on a global scale, again, looking into Europe, you see left and right happening really big things. So also, and then you look into Europe, which is kind of in the scattered, mid-sized, small size for international player markets. Yeah, so like where both are both being challenged from the outside with even bigger players. So again, maybe coming back again, you ask where commonalities. Both I think are in the position, in the need to leverage innovation, and especially taking the home market into consideration. In Europe, for example, even more and better. And Europe used to be mid-sized, small, very fast, flexible. Now you have startups, scale-ups everywhere. So now they are the new fast and flexible. Again, and our big industries, taking telco, looking again global, they are not so big anymore. So this is where an opportunity. You can say a need or a challenge, however you want to turn it, right? We see it as an opportunity. Here it makes absolute sense to collaborate and leverage, or to go into the equation 1 and 1 equals 3.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. I try to continue very brief. So what is on the other side to finish the first topic? So in general, collaboration is growing. What is for the corporate important with the how do you say important at the scale-up partner? So what should a scale-up partner have? What are they looking at? Number one, most important, 85% agreement, product uniqueness. So when I work with a scale-up, there should be something unique. So the message to the scale-up, like, hey, if you have something, you should really focus on what makes me unique. Not all your feet. What is this one thing which distinguishes me from the rest of the market? So this is actually the new, what used to be team, very much investors driven. So what is the scale-up important? It's team. It's changing apparently, more co-op, more business driven. So number one, clearly product uniqueness. Team, of course, a very important factor, right? It's somebody early in the journey, so there's still more potential to come. And overarching, and that's a little bit going already towards, on the one, ESG, on the other side, if I work with a scale-up, yeah, okay, I might start small, not a POC, but I might start dedicated. But it's, of course, about potential impact I can generate. So being a very tiny solution, eventually, selling 50K towards a corporate on an annual level will most probably face issues on the procurement strategy as just being too small. And now I finished the topic. It's growing. What is important in there? And now what is the overarching, and that's the overarching theme answer from the study we have done. It's bigger than you think. So why should I collaborate? And that's very much a question towards a corporate. And that can be an easy question to an innovation manager. Like, why are we innovating? What's on the table? How much did you generate? What scale-ups, innovations, whatever you measure, how much impact do you generate? And we still see that it is on a one-on-one tracking level. It might be still difficult to explain your investments, to explain your growth strategy. And what we did now, and we think like super interesting, and I only show the CAGR here. Same goes actually into market capitalization and EBITDA. So we see a significant, strong correlation between, again, the cumulated annual growth rate here. You see the 3.9 compared to the -1. So a difference in terms of 5 points in the growth rate between somebody who's doing a lot in innovation and somebody who says, I don't need that. I do in-house. I know what I do. I know me, my markets, and it's me, versus I am out there. I try different vehicles. I try different partners. For me, it's about innovation, leveraging open innovation. So 5 points, again, same numbers on market capitalization, same numbers on EBITDA. And we have looked into, and you saw there were almost 400 corporates participating. So of course, we have looked into public listed companies. So what was their qualitative, quantitative answers in the survey versus their stock, their performance on the annual level. So I think If I would be an innovation manager, I would just make a screenshot, copy paste. That's like by far the strongest answer I have ever heard. Yeah, but blah, blah, blah. You need to innovate. You don't need how to, should I not? Can you measure? That's the strong, I mean, it's the 3 strongest numbers you have. And again, with about 800 participants, 400 corporates, we can claim it's significant and it's a strong correlation. So towards the question, why should I actually care about open innovation, about risky startups, scale-ups, new suppliers, being fancy fast, but why should I do that? This is the answer to the why. Final, just slightly overdue, some best practices, advices from the report, what we see. Again, you see always in yellow, the very or extremely successful corporates, towards the blue, not really successful. And if we compare the answers on certain factors, so we see there are certain factors which are extremely important. One outstanding, which is internally aligned objectives. Why do I corp up? So why do I A, innovate, B, open innovate, and C, was actually why do I leverage startups and scale-ups in here? If this is not internally aligned, they're not clear objectives, you have a very high chance of failing. You see like 30% compared to almost 60% on the ones which are successful versus not successful. To summarize, basically almost all points below, it's a lot about process. So like, sounds a little bit, I don't know, awkward. Startups, hey, it's about projects, being quick, fancy, you know, leverage something new ideas. To do that, you need to be very clear. You need to have proper processes, which are not apparently or naturally your standard corporate processes, but really processes adjusted to finding scale-ups, to onboarding scale-ups, to scaling scale-ups afterwards in the organization. So a lot of process points to think about, to adjust, to be actually really successful with scale-ups. And I have final slide now, almost in time. Our golden standard. So overarching, a mature collaboration ecosystem offers key success factors. So again, coming back, the ecosystem is something important. And now to be really successful in this ecosystem, to find and leverage new partners. And again, we have identified through the study, the survey, all the different points. Coming to this nicely, feel free to use and benchmark yourself or your own organization. How are we set up in strategy, vision? So what does it mean? You really need to define a clear long-term strategy. Also, how you want to innovate with startups. What are I mentioned already, what are the objectives? How do you measure those? What is your C-level support? How do you steer your innovation teams? The processes, super important. Towards people culture, I mentioned it's a lot. Eventually, a company, it's a big group of people. So think about people, and again, think about your own innovation puzzle. Where do you stand? How can you start? How can you best evolve from there? One hint, maybe it's not about immediately investing some millions and then in the next accelerator and stop it in a couple of years, but show the people it works, show the impact it can generate. Think about impact on the bigger picture, as just shown, like market capitalization. So there is again, significant strong correlation between being active, finding your best innovation puzzle, leveraging different vehicles, also probably in different stages at your journey. You start somewhere, you end somewhere else, and you find how to do it most successful for yourself. Overarching, always I would recommend, think about creating short-term impact to show and being able to measure and track and eventually convince your team and the people behind. Almost in time. If you have any questions, I'm Bjorn. Feel free to contact Dave. Ask, and I'm not sure how much time we have. So that you see, I was running above some discussion points in the presentation, knowing that we have overstretched it a little bit. But again, I'm here. If you have any questions, feel free.
Okay, thank you. I have a couple of questions, but I don't know from the audience, maybe you want to ask something? Do you have any questions?
I think you need to take over.
Yeah. So, well, I think that the point is that we don't have enough time. We are already like for 5 minutes, I think, or more. But I have a couple of questions. But one of the most important, in my opinion, is to ask you, in your opinion, what the companies needs to do, the corporations, in order to start working with the scale-ups. What are those 2-3 first steps that they need to do, in your opinion?
Now, I think number one is really clear. I need to set my objectives, what I meant, and really like, why am I doing that? And it can start with being a high level. I need to innovate to grow, but breaking it down. What do I really want to achieve? Making it tangible, and that should be like measurable. And with measurable, like I want to grow and I want to innovate. It's already something very holistic, difficult to measure, and a very long time horizon. So it should be a shorter time horizon with also tangible, measurable impacts. So like, and that should be really aligned, including then, and that support is extremely important from the C-level. So yes, it makes sense. Yes, we need to grow. I don't know if I'm a telco, Amazon Prime is coming around the corner. We really need to think about, cutting costs. We really need to think out of the box, find new ways. Yes, we have gold data, gold, oil, whatever you want to claim here. We have it. Nobody has it as good as we, but we're using, look at NPS, apparently not very good. So that's really out of the box, new. Yes, I'm with you guys on short term. I think that's really, really, really important. Afterwards, and before thinking about, again, the total organization, I think in processes, and I had some, still in the presentation, just to show some, and you will see if you read through success, so case studies about different corporates having done differently. Centralized approach, decentralized approach, small team, directly in the business team. So no, there's no golden answer. The overarching answers, they all had a plan. So that it might be we start like that to get there, but all had like, we have adjusted our processes, our teams. And that was, again, important for us to get initially the core team to convince the business team, to convince the organization, and then doing it on a big scale. All of the examples here, like from DTEC to Verizon, like looking into, we think all of them have done it very successful. Like, success stories out there in the market, people like what they have done, that's quite impressive. You see, it's all different. But all of them apparently had a very clear plan, adjusted to their needs, following what I mentioned in one, the aligned objective that they have set prior.
Your plans. Super interesting, actually. I think, okay, we have a question, actually. Please, go on.
Hello, a very impressive portfolio, I would say.
Thank you.
Did you work with Kazakhstani corporations or scale-ups so far?
Scale-ups, no. I don't think it's currently. I think we have discussed with telcos. Well, I'm not 100% confident or sure. With scale-ups, I can confirm no. Whereas scale-ups, we are fully global. Corporates could be that we have at least had discussions and talks with telco, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, I think actually, Joro, to be honest, it will be good to get, if it's okay to get from you the presentation. Can you share with the audience the presentation?
Sure.
From one side, from the other. Also, maybe you can share the link for all the documents or all that they have been doing for the last couple of years. And I will share this with the audience. So I will share also with the audience your contact, your contact details, or you have the insight at Matchmaker Ventures. But anyway, I think the idea is actually to continue working directly with you. So John, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time. It was really interesting. I think that we can make another to focus in other key points, another webinar in the future. So let's see how it's going to be. But again, thank you very much for your participation, and hope to see you soon.
Thank you very much. It was a
Thank
pleasure.
you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Ciao, ciao.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.